Looks like I'm in the jungle again with the palm fronds across me here.
I don't
Uh,
see palm fronds on this end. I see the back of your office.
no, it's the shadows across my face here.
Oh, gotcha. I'm like, because you can get that background so you look like you're in the jungle.
No, that's okay. Been there, done that.
Hi, Nelson Hodges. And hello, everyone.
Hi, Angela and everybody.
Hey, Jason Cohen. So good to see you again today, my friend.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Laura. I see Laura too. And Spence.
Hi.
Oh, there's Laura. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. And Rachel, of course. It's
Yeah,
probably
in the
what?
middle of the night in
Yeah,
Switzerland.
it's
And
probably
she's
two,
here with
two,
us.
2 o'clock in the
Hi.
morning.
Hello.
Rachel, don't you have a life?
Nope, I don't.
I know you do.
Oh, I
Uh,
do.
I'm going to attempt to get these shades a little different. We'll start in a couple of minutes, see who else pops on, if anyone. So, uh, several people said they could not make it tonight, sent me messages. They were working or something else. So, excuse me a minute.
Okay.
There. That's a little better. Let me try to get some light here.
So while we're waiting for Nelson Hodges, in case anyone wants to know, my 15-year-old Chihuahua got 7 teeth pulled today.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. All he has left are his canines. He's sitting over he's laying in his bed. He's still recovering from anesthesia.
No, poor guy.
Wow.
No, poor Nugget.
Okay. Looks like we got a couple. Oh, there's Colonel Kelly. How are you, sir? With the beauty queen wave. Okay, guys.
Party started.
Uh, wanted to first of all, for people who are watching the recording, sorry for the first 5 minutes and nothing. So, um,
Hey, wait a minute. They got to look at us.
that's right.
Thank you.
Or your
Or better
name.
yet, you're welcome.
There you go. Um, yeah, I think we've got probably another 80 people or more that are not on here. So, um, wanted to touch base with you guys on a couple of things. Sorry for taking the time. Um, the and the reason I'm doing that is uh, we we have just a very small handful of people who are eligible to take course 5, but they're not taking it this year for their various reasons, and that's fine. Not nothing is ever required, obviously, and if they wish to or they don't, but no one's going to be in it. So I have that's always that's in September. So we have canceled that particular one. And usually, uh, it's rare that we get more than 2 or 3 people in that anymore because there's not that many people that go forward that that far. Sorry, I'm having to watch a 4-month-old German Shepherd puppy here too. So make sure she doesn't chew up anything she shouldn't, like explosives or no, I'm just kidding. Sort of. So I'm replacing that. People have asked um, when they could get art of leash handling. And so that is one of the courses that is going to be in that section instead of course 5. And then the other one, which is a new class, and this is the reason I'm mentioning it here, is because it is related to what I'm talking about tonight, which it's a 3-day art of leash handling is obviously the normal 2 days of 5, 6 foot, 7 foot leash and 1 day of long line introduction. Both of those could be probably a week each, but it's really an introduction as to what the lost art of using a leash, frankly, or as I describe it, is learning how to not have to use a leash. That's the key to it. So it's about communication, and the leash is just a tiny piece of that communication device. But the second segment, the second 3 days of the 6 days replacing course 5 in September, early September, will be the 20-second walk. And that is an extremely important, as a matter of fact, if you didn't make any other courses, I would say that would be the one to make, because it's really all of the things that I try to teach. And people always want to, they always say, well, we want to watch you, do something, or, we want to see you analyze a video of someone, working with a dog, all that stuff. They want to see examples. Well, you will be the example, as well as what we actually do, how we think, what we're doing. Over the years, probably the past 15 years or so since I've been teaching what's become course 1 around the world to about I would say 1,500 people, probably 1,200 trainers. The concept of the 20-second walk has been something that people want to know. I've always asked in other courses, including the more advanced ones, so what can you do? What are some of the things you can do in that first 20 seconds that you take a hold or are handed the leash of a dog? Even the first 20 seconds you put your dog on leash. What is the communication? What do you do? How do you do it? All of that stuff. And within 20 seconds, I can average about a dozen things that I can experiment with very subtly and see how the dog reacts to it. Over the years, I've asked, okay, what are the categories of things? And people, generally get around the same categories, but frankly, there's over 1,000 different things you can do to experiment to see how that dog responds to it, and how you learn what it already agrees with, what you can use to continue communication with it, and actually reach that dog. I will say, I'm not going to say instantly, but very, very quickly. Within that first 20 seconds, the dog and I have an agreement. We already have an understanding that we can work from. And that's not how people, unfortunately, use a leash. But it should be. They use, as another one of my millions of sayings is, if you have to control the dog physically, you're not reaching it mentally. So it's about reaching that dog mentally and all of the things that it means and being able to read the dog. When I say look into the dog's brain, this is what I mean. You do things to elicit a response, even extremely subtle. So this is my opportunity to give back to everybody, to uh, show them as well as have them, uh, we'll discuss, we will teach, we will work dogs, we will change, we will look at each other, we'll look at video of yourself and others. Um, it's going to be very important, and frankly, I'm kind of excited to teach that course. So if you have the opportunity, um, I will probably repeat it again, but it'll be next year sometime. Um, so probably another one of those annual types of courses. So if you can make it, and I'm not just talking to the people here on screen, but anybody. And obviously both of them are at the center, CHRI, in sequence. So because it does have to be in person, and it's something that while I probably could do some aspect of it remotely from the center, I prefer to do the first one here. So anyway, I wanted to let you guys know about that. Art of Leash Handling is September 5th through 7th, and the 22nd walk is 8th through 10th. So it's sequential immediately afterwards. Okay. I saw a question there. It's 3 days of Art of Leash Handling, the normal course that everybody needs to have to uh, take advanced courses, particular level. And then the 22nd walk is 3 days as well. Okay. Were there any other questions, Angela, that you saw? No? Okay. Thank you. That just popped up and I just happened to glance. So that is a change and an add. We already have the Pack Dynamics course coming up in August, which is online. And that's 5 days, 3 hours a day, essentially, and very in depth. Course 4 in October, course 2 in November, and then personality types in December, a three-day, 3 hour a day course for personality types, and really truly getting into the different personalities of dogs. Oh, well, I forgot September also. Later September, we have human learning types, which is a very important course to learn for you, how you learn and how to make changes, as well as how clients, basically the 4 categories and about 100 different types of nuances about how humans actually learn. So, and it will be less of the neurobiology types of things and more about personality itself. I'll put it that way, and how people receive information. So it will be a heavy class as far as understanding, but it won't be into neurobiology, which some people seem to fear. Although I try to make it understandable as I can. So anyway, okay. Well, I've taken my first 15 minutes doing this, so I apologize, but I wanted to make you aware of it because I'm actually excited for that class. It's an opportunity for me to do what people have asked me to do, but use yourself. They always say, well, we just want to see you watch, work it with a dog. And I'm going, you won't see anything because the conversation's between me and that dog. And you have to feel that. And so I want you guys to have that practice to feel it and understand what that is. And I hope that will be a game changer for you guys to be able to do things and spread things out to others in that way, your clients, etc. Okay, so this particular talk is to be or not to be. That is the question. Okay, and what does that mean? It's not Hamlet or about Shakespeare. This is a situation where I see humans having great deal of problem just being who they are, what they are, honest, and being with the dog and recognizing what the dog is, including the environment that they're in, because that changes everything. So we're going to talk about all that. I want to try to clear up a few things. I don't want to go over the same thing always. Some of it has to be repeated because it's in context with everything else. So the first thing that I will talk about is the old exercise I used to do in course 1 as part of course 1 as the puppy tears up a sheet of paper. Fortunately, it was on the ground. And that exercise is called being with. Being with was an attempt years back of introducing a concept that people actually had. The only influence you had on the dog was your presence. You couldn't touch, you couldn't look at it, you couldn't tell it anything. You weren't even to pay attention to the dog, you were pay attention to the environment itself. The same environment the dog pays attention to. And you had about 10 to 15 minutes within a sequestered space with nobody else around, no other influences, no human, no dog. So it's one-on-one situation where you are laid bare and so is the dog. And what does that mean? First of all, the location, it could be an interior space. And usually when you start that exercise, if you choose to do these, interior is, I'll say, a more deprived environment. In other words, there's a lot less influence of all of the transitional things that happen in the environment, the wind, the car going by, the dog next door, all of those things. If you can get an indoor environment where you're in a facility, a room, whatever else, anywhere from maybe 150 to 300 square feet, much more than that is overkill for that. And the issue with that is you want some proximity with the dog. You don't want it just going off and exploring on its own and not relating to you at all. It is about relationship, and it's about how the dog relates to you and you to the dog. And I've had, well, first the rules: no sound from you. You don't talk to the dog. You don't make sounds to distract the dog to get its attention or anything else. It's just pure raw you and the dog. No vision at the dog. You don't stare at the dog. You don't look to the dog. You're actually looking, if you have a room with a window in it, you're looking out the window and you're listening for whatever's in the environment. If there's a noise, a pop in the building, and you look over here, so the dog sees you are part of the environment, aware of the environment, probably for the first time for most people, frankly. Because humans are so great at being inside their own head. They don't notice anything. And that's one of the biggest gaps that we have with our dogs. No movement or very little movement on your part, just a movement of a head or whatever else. You're actually supposed to sit on the floor, not in a chair. You don't want to elevate yourself. You don't want to separate yourself from the level of the dog. So you're both, actually, it's better if you don't even have furniture in that, but you could have stuff around, doesn't matter. Um, so we've talked about kind of the environment, beginning in a deprived environment. Eventually you can go outside as long as it's a sequestered yard where the dog doesn't just go off on its own. And once again, after you do this a while, um, you could go to a small, we'll say, backyard, a couple of thousand square feet at the most, maybe 1,000 square feet better, a yard of some type, even a side yard, if it's closed off as far as that, um, where there are other things going on, but you've already gotten used to being together, that being with aspect of, look, I'm just going to sit here, we're going to enjoy each other. In course one, I have a slide of two of the dogs that are sitting there, same sit, same looking out, exact same direction. Both heads are facing the same exact thing in the same way. And I had a whole sequence of photos of these two as Tasha, and I don't remember the other dog's name. It was one in for behavior. And, as soon as literally it was like they were both on a connected swivel. One would look this way, they'd look up, they'd look down, it was perfect synchronicity. And that's the way, that's the explanation of this, is you're both together in that environment. And what's important to a dog. So you yourself are being a dog, if you will, and stop worrying about what anybody else thinks, who's watching. It doesn't matter. You're looking for that evil squirrel up in the tree by that time. You're looking for whatever else. The wind blows and a leaf. Again, start inside. So, what are the expectations on this? So, the exercise purpose is to, well, it's multifold. First is it's the discovery of the dog as it sees you relevant to that environment, to any environment. And that's why you change from environment to environment over time. Are you relevant to that dog? And what is the relevancy? So when we did those exercises, some people got very upset at me because they thought they had perfect control of their perfect robot dog. And as soon as they couldn't control it, tell it what to do, the dog would run, jump over it, pee in every corner, basically flip the person off. And of course, they would lose control of themselves, get angry, and sit there and stew as their dog just showed them exactly what they thought of them. Those are people who I call crush the dog through harsh training, through perfect, hard obedience. And the dog gets the chance for 15 minutes to tell you what they think about you. And those people, after that exercise, I never heard from them again because they don't like it. Oh, well, sucks to be you. And um, sorry. Yeah, it exposes everything. It's raw. That's what it's about. And then, if you practice this, if you understand, and I'll go through the different elements of it, what's the purpose of it? So it's to see how the dog sees you in relationship to each environment that you share together without influence by you. How do you influence a dog? Okay, so it's also the purpose of it, this exercise, is to discover how this particular dog behaves when the only influence you have is your presence. Um, and have you ever been present before, other than you're aware the dog is around, but you're too busy doing everything else? So the dog really doesn't matter most of the time. And that's the issue. It really is. Um, we'll talk about awareness of things soon. So um, the main purpose for you is becoming environmentally aware. So all the noises, smells, sounds, everything the dog is already sensing that you don't ever pay attention to. Why don't you pay attention to it? Because it's human built. Everything we do in every place is always a human built environment. The only time we get away into nature is a vacation, you know? And why do you go into nature on a vacation? To get away from human built stuff, you know, the total control of everything of our environment. We don't have to worry about what's in the environment other than another human, or a dog off leash. We don't worry about all of those sounds, smells, everything else, because we already know we've created them. We know what those are. So the issue is the dog doesn't. And that's a major gap in between us, is that lack of understanding both ways. They don't understand why we're such idiots and don't notice the major potentials and threats. And we don't pay attention to them because we already know all of what that sound is at 2 miles away. We identify it, we hear it, we identify it, and we go, okay, it's no big deal. But the dog doesn't know that. And you have not addressed it with and for the dog. So the dog can't trust you. So the whole point of being, or being with, or to be, is to be aware of what the dogs are concerned about and what they see, how they think. That's the whole point of it. And the other piece of this particular talk is the 20-second walk, the actual physical application of those things, is to really reach a dog and quickly. And I don't mean it has to be fast. I mean, it just does. Because it's about trust. They observe you, they see that you're aware of all the things they're aware of, and that you can influence them by your behavior. So environmental awareness, and then influencing through composure. Let me go back to the exercise, the original exercise that I was talking about, which was the being with that they would always set up. We ran out of time. Once we got past 15 people coming to the course, you have 35 people and you've got maybe 2 rooms, and you're spending 15 minutes per person in each room. Yeah, that's 3 days worth. So you can't really do that anymore. So you have to do it on an individual basis. Do I do that with my dogs? Yes, I do. Every dog that I have, mine or any other, I spend time, probably 10 to 15 minutes with them, either in a room, outside in the backyard, wherever it is, by ourselves, in that presence of mind, to be able to understand and influence each other within the environment that we're in. And that's the other huge piece that I'll talk about shortly. So that environmental awareness isn't just noise and all that. It's also movement and our position in it, our place in it. You can do this. I recommend when people start this exercise, this type of thing, the being with aspect, is to be static. Why? Because you can easily observe your dog. I mentioned the people that that don't talk to me anymore, the trainers that don't talk to me anymore because they crush their dog and want them under total control. And when they release the dog recognizes very quickly they're not doing anything. So the dog can do whatever it wants and shows their disdain for that absolute control over them. But there are others that were absolutely perfect, where the dog will go around the perimeter, which is what they do, once, maybe twice. Longest I've seen is 3 times. You go around the perimeter, check it all out, make sure everything's safe, all the smells in that perimeter within that room, yard, wherever you are, and then come over. And the perfect thing is to lay down by you, not touching you. That's disrespectful because it's a larger space. There's no use in being right up against you. If the dog is, then it's a fearful, uncertain dog. already tells you what it is. So it lays near you and it curls up and lays and faces out. If it gives a little space and turns and looks at you, then it's either a controlled dog wanting to know something from you, or it doesn't trust you very much. It'll trust you to feed it and do all those other things, but it has questions about you. And the further away the dog gets, the less it trusts you. And dog over in another corner, you know, pushed its back up in the corner and staring at you. Well, you know the situation there. So given when you signal to the dog, I'm not addressing you, I'm aware of you, I'm not even bothering with you. I'm looking out here in the same environment you yourself exist in. What's your concern? Well, if the concern is the human because they determine the environment's safe, that's a problem. That tells you a lot about that relationship, about that situation. So, you know, where that dog positions itself and whether it looks away from you, in other words, putting its back to you to feel safe, or if it stares at you or focuses toward you. Those are huge signals. There's thousands of signals that I could go over, but and I don't have time tonight, obviously, but part of that 20-second walk is to really understand dog body language. So um, your influence of your composure, okay, and I've talked about composure of your mind first of all, okay, to not be like this schizophrenic mind, which most humans are in. You know, we think this and then this and then this and then this. We don't show necessarily anything external. Sometimes we do, but the dog can sense. First of all, a lot of dogs can actually hear your heartbeat, especially in an enclosed environment like that. So they know the difference of your blood pressure, the heartbeat itself, because of difference of sound. Yes, they're capable of doing that. Your first breath in that out of your lungs from that brain change of neurotransmitters and hormones in your body and your brain that creates the thought that allows that thought to go through you, and that feeling, we'll say, that first breath, you exude all of those neurotransmitters and hormones out in the air that that dog is a nose machine with 4 legs or sometimes 3 legs. And so that dog knows instantly, without even looking at you, what you're thinking or the categories of things. And if you are, that's what makes humans very, I'll say, very untrustworthy to a dog, because the situation, the environment rarely aligns with the messages through scent that we send to dogs. And this is the purpose of this exercise, is for you to align into the environment, how dogs feel, think, sense, what they're sensing, all of those things. So basically, it's not a meditative state in the way that humans think about it, but it's an alignment of your brain, your body, and I'll say the self-control that you have over your thought, your emotions, and simply getting in alignment with that environment. Now, that doesn't mean if it's a chaotic, frenetic environment that you join in that, because you can influence both the environment, the dog, and yourself by being calm and composed. So that's the alignment that you want, that congruity in yourself influences others. And that's really what you're doing, is you're practicing how to be So the work is on yourself, not the dog. The dog is the canary in the mine, essentially. And I got a puppy chewing on something she shouldn't, I should say. Sorry. So that's really what that exercise itself begins to show you, is you practicing on yourself and reading the dog based on the environment that you happen to be in. And the exercise is a beginning point only. And you need to practice that in every environment, whether you're walking, running, you're going through, Home Depot, you're going through, Manhattan at lunch hour, as Jason and I have talked before about that, the chaos of Pyrenean nightmare. Sorry. If you don't know who Piranesi was, look up Piranesi. He was an artist and sometime architect in Italy back in the Renaissance, and he presaged layer upon layer upon layer of bridges and huge buildings, and all this stuff by 400 years. Um, so let's talk about intent and learning. So purpose and intent is for you to become calm, composed, and aware, present of mind. And that's of the dog, of yourself, of the environment. The practice is, once you begin to feel that in that sequestered environment with that one dog, start practicing it elsewhere too, in your home, outside your home, with other people, driving in the car. So don't get road rage. Let them go on. They're out of your life instead of making them a permanent part of your life. Just those are the things that that will help you, first of all, live a better life, but second of all, relate to dogs better, because you're providing the influence over the dog. You study how the dog, it's a study of how the dog sees the environment. And it's not looking at the dog, it's being present with it. And actually, if the dog looks at something, it may, we say, look, it may be smelling, it may be hearing something, it may sense something, a different pattern of wind that comes through that their fur picks up and ours doesn't. Their skin sensitivity with their long guard fur, a slight wave frequency, I'll say, of air, they can sense and we don't. We don't have the same capabilities. So it doesn't matter what it is, why they turn their head that way, you should also be present enough to see that they are, because that's our senses, and look over that way and look for it. Even use your nose, act like you're using your nose. It's not an act in the way you're really trying to figure things out. Your dog, that dog, which whatever dog it is, if you are within peripheral vision of it, senses, looks, and sees in that movement that you are also sensing the same thing. You're looking for the same answer. That gives you enormous amount of what I'll call street cred with that dog, with all dogs. Because what you normally do is, dog is turning its head towards something, you ignore it completely because you don't care. The dog knows you don't care, sees it, senses it, you don't change your frenetic mind, and the dog goes, I can't trust you. So people always think they're in charge when they rarely are. They're in charge because they control and force a dog rather than be a trustworthy partner that the dog can look to for answers. That's the partnership. That's the relationship. Just because you say so isn't a reason. because just because you say so doesn't mean that you are aware of what the dog's aware of impending doom possible. Okay? And it doesn't matter how silly you feel. No one else is, they're too busy worrying about what you think of them for you to worry about what they think of you. Just don't care. So, you're going to gain a lot of knowledge, skill, capability, and understanding of dogs by doing these things. So, purpose and intent, well, first of all, is practice. If this is of interest to you, not even your profession, because a lot of people in this this monthly class aren't trainers, but they're gaining tons for their life with their dogs. I keep having, I don't share stuff like that from people. I'm not a marketer for myself, but a lot of people give me private messages. I keep them private because I'm not the guy trying to be the shiny thing. And uh, if people really want to seek out education and knowledge, I'm there and I'll help. But I don't care to be front and center. So that's and I've had a lot of frustrated people ask me to be otherwise. That's not me. That may be you. You do it. So so it's for you to practice and take every opportunity and every environment for you to practice being present, aware, and being with the dog. Here's the problem. So now I'm going to go on with this. So study how the dog sees the environment. And again, we have words to say see because that's how our brains are structured, is through vision. We literally are eye dominant. They are nose dominant. So the dog smells the environment. That's their main sense of being able to understand the environment. Our main sense for understanding the environment is the eyes. So we have a huge gap there already. So how the dog senses and exists in that environment and why. So you're wondering, well, why should I do that? Okay, well, if you work with dogs of any type and you get a reactive dog, reactive to movement, to sound, whatever else, a fearful dog, to any of those things, wouldn't it be nice to know and understand why and what it is concerned about? What many of the times the environment that that dog is in is the problem, not the stimulus that pushes them over the edge. They're already ready to go over the edge.
Right.
So
Right.
that's the real issue, is understanding that you fixing the problem by changing a part in that refrigerator isn't going to fix the problem, because it's the dog's understanding capabilities of handling the environment, each environment it's in. And when it doesn't get those answers, it will find a new stimulus to cause it to go over the edge, because it's still out of control of all of those other things. And that's where, if you are honest, you're capable, you're physically, mentally, and spiritually capable of composing yourself and be aware of the environment that the dog is, that dog can trust you. And now it doesn't have to handle the environment that it can't handle. It trusts you to handle it. That's leadership, guys. You don't take leadership. You become that, and it's earned, it is observed by others, and they follow in those situations. That's leadership. When you crush a dog or you try to grab and take control and manhandle a dog, that's not leadership. So I'm sorry for lecturing that way. Well, no, I'm not. You know, I'm not trying to get points across. Okay. And, if it sends a shot of adrenaline in you, good, not to be mad at me, but to look at your own situation and be honest. And that's really what this is all about. It's being honest. Because dogs know if you're honest or not, if you're faking it or not. And guess what? Humans are pretty smart too. And over time, you may mask things with social aspects and cultural aspects, but humans figure it out too. So be honest. And here's the thing. Study your awareness of the environment. In other words, your mental focus. Don't just look for things in the environment and try to understand them from the dog standpoint. Study your own awareness of it. Okay. Yes, I'm beating a dead horse, but I want you to understand these things because this is paramount uh, to reaching that dog and reaching it quickly. Okay, so that was the first part. Let's talk about the second part, the pause, what I call the pause, not P-A-W-S, P-A-U-S-E. Make this a part of your daily and momentary understanding is the pause. What I talk about is in communication, the pause is the conversation because you're thinking between. And that's how dogs communicate is one will signal, the other one will pause even for a microsecond, signal back. Do you mean this? How about this? This? Yep, yep. And they come to agreement and they are capable of 4 to 5 times a second each. So they're literally within that framework, signaling up to 10 times per second. People don't read those things. There doesn't have to be movement. There's slight changes, slight movements, presence of mind, all sorts of things going on. Over 50 years, whatever it's been, longer than that now, I've learned to be able to read those things, and I can usually answer in 2 to 3 times a second. So it's, once again, if you want to use the word street cred with dogs, I get that almost instantly because they see that I'm not a total idiot primate. I'm just an idiot primate. So, and we have to be, especially a professional, we have to be an example of what a human can be for a dog because the humans they encounter, that's what changes the dogs is to see that all humans aren't like what they necessarily live with. So if we're capable of communicating and changing a dog behaviorally, training wise, whatever, then that dog now has new answers that it's never had before because the humans it lives with, they're incapable of understanding or communicating. So now the dog, really what we're training is the dog to help that human to communicate back and forth to it and have a better life. So practice being present. That's a tough one because humans, we are very busy people. And I posted something a few months ago. Most humans are, I'll paraphrase it. Most humans are in such a hurry to not notice that going slow and calm is faster than us trying to push it. It's in slow, out fast. That's something I teach. It's an racing analogy in racing. Something I used to do a lot of and instruct hundreds of thousands of miles on tracks. And but it applies to almost every subject. You take your time to learn, to trust, to get communication, to get the right signals and make sure the other is agreeing with those things, that we don't have disagreement in major areas, And now you've got this learning period here, and then now it can take off and do this. And that's literally what happens every time. If you take your time, if you simply grab that dog and make it do this, that's all you'll get. And you'll never know what you could have had if you hadn't slowed down and learned about the dog and gained the dog's trust. Trust isn't about you handling everything. It's about the dog observing that you can handle what it understands, what the problems are and the issues, the good and the bad. So practice being present, presence of mind. There's a lot of presence here. Presence of mind is one. Presence of awareness of the dog, where it is, what it is, how it's feeling, what it's observing, all of those things. Not staring at it, being present of mind to be able to be aware of the dog. Presence of mind of all environmental aspects and transitions the dogs notice and are affected by. So transitions, if you want to learn what that means, there's two in sequence that I did a year and a half ago, whenever it was, on these classes. First one was thresholds, the meaning of it, what they are. And it's not just a door threshold, guys. It's everything is a potential threshold. Change of something, which is transitions. Transition is anything from a static state. That doesn't mean being still. It means in any state, whether you're moving, it doesn't matter what it is. Anything that changes that environment, that time, that space, anything, sound, movement, change of light, anything is a transition. And the brains, we have brains, all animals have brains in order to survive and come up with an answer for that and each transition. So presence of mind of all environmental aspects and transitions that dogs notice and are affected by. You have to have that. If you don't, you're not part of, you're not in a leadership role. You're unaware or you're unavailable or you're incapable of handling what that dog's concerned about. Okay. Awareness of self. That's one of the hardest ones because we are egocentric animals and we think we're perfect. We also think we all have exactly the right answer. Everybody on earth thinks they're right. And that's a pretty scary proposition when you think about all of the people and the way they think. We've got we've got a we've got constant conflict, always have throughout the history of mankind, because everybody thinks they're right. So awareness of self, and you have to lay yourself bare and say, well, okay, am I really present, or am I just pushing something on everything else that I want? In other words, you take it how it is, not how you want it to be. And that's hard for a human to do. It really is. I know I'm half human, so okay. Awareness of your influence on the dog is the other part of this. You influence the dog just by existing, by being present. If you are, for instance, and I'll pick on a client, okay? Not really picking, I'm using it as an example. So, most clients, before they come to work with, a professional of any type, uh, they don't know much about dogs. And so they go for a walk dutifully, for instance, and they have the leash, and the dog is out there doing whatever the dog does because the human is completely unaware. It may be on the phone these days. Didn't used to have to worry about that, but they're walking because they're dutifully going for 20 minutes or an hour or what everybody else says on the internet that they have to do each day. And it's work for them and it's drudgery. They don't enjoy it. They're not present of mind. How is that person affecting the dog? First of all, the dog's literally tied to this unaware body anywhere from 100 to 300 pounds of human flesh, that if something happens to that human, that dog is trapped. It knows it would have to defend itself, so it's going to amp itself up because the human isn't even aware of potential threats. So the way predators think is in a predatory mind. That doesn't mean they go out and kill everything. That has nothing to do with it. It's the way they think about the environment. And if you are not present, if the human has no presence of understanding and offers no safety, no awareness, then it's the dog in charge. And what is probably the number one thing, at least used to be for 50 years before I started just teaching trainers and whoever else came to learn, was I just want to be able to walk my dog on leash without it pulling and doing all this other stuff. That was usually the main complaint, one of them, one of the top ones. Well, that's because people weren't aware, weren't present. Uh, they were dutifully walking their dogs to do nothing except fuss with the dog. So they were in constant conflict rather than actually being with. So if you solve that for people, if you solve that for yourself, you're halfway there, guys. You really are. Because then the people, you and the people, will be present and understand everything else that concerns the dog that goes on that you can handle, and the dog doesn't have to. Now it can trust you. Now it's a partner with you. That's a good relationship. Most people don't have a good relationship with dogs. They just don't. They think they do. They love their dogs, but that's not it. That's not how dogs survive. All of the human emotions, all those learned human emotions that humans have because our lifespan allows us to develop those things and have a brain larger so that we can develop those social and cultural things, are meaningless to an animal that whose background is the average lifespan is 4 to 7 years. It's a waste of energy for nature to create something with exceedingly complex emotions that humans have when you're only going to live 4 to 7 years. And that's what wolves, even to this day, that's their average lifespan. So they're, obviously they're capable in captivity of living 15 years, just like a dog would, but that's not the reality of nature. So our presence of mind, presence of awareness of the dog, presence of mind of all environmental aspects, right? Awareness of self. That's a hard one. It's not some, you don't need a Swami or a, Buddhist priest or anything else to teach you about that. Just be aware of yourself, your physical, your mental state, your emotional state, all of those things. Be aware in that moment. Practice that. That's the whole purpose of that initial exercise that I was introducing to people. Just be aware of how you feel in the environment. Okay. And if you don't feel good in an environment, guess what? That dog is going to have to go, there's something wrong here. I've got to take over because I can't survive because I can't trust this idiot human primate. So your awareness of the influence that you have on the dog too, that's part of it. That's a huge part, guys. Awareness of your influence on the environment. By the time a dog, a puppy, is 3 weeks old, it understands it influences the environment. It has an effect on the environment. It already understands that. By the time they're 3 months old, they recognize how they influence the environment. Humans don't. It takes us much longer uh, because of our slower development. But so your awareness of how you affect the environment is very important, because you can affect the environment and assuage the dog's concerns simply by a slight movement, a movement toward, a movement away, a calm, just relax. Let's just kind of go around this. Let's go over here and do this instead of what you're worried about over there. All those little nuances of things that, once again, are smooth, calm, composed, showing, don't worry about this, buddy. I've got this. I understand it all. I see it. I sense it. I smell it all, just like you do. We're on the same page here. Okay. I've got this. Don't worry about it. You would not believe how many problems that takes care of with dogs. And teaching your clients that aspect helps them with a relationship that they didn't even know they were capable of with their dog too. Why? Because that dog begins observing and understanding that human in a different way. And it's a much richer experience then for both of them. People are always amazed at how, by doing very little except being aware, and rather than controlling the dog, affect the environment for the dog by how you move, where you move, what you do, what you see. Doesn't take manipulation. It's just your awareness of being able to go through. So who you are to be, okay, affects all of that. I'm running out of time. I only have another page to go. We're not off the first page yet, so that's typical. Sorry. So awareness of self, awareness of your influence on the dog, and awareness of influence on the environment. Awareness of the dog's influence on you. Massive. We're embarrassed, we're upset, we're whatever by the dog, right? Don't do that. The dog's influence on you should be when it does something you agree with, you should be happy for it. Not about you. It's not about your ego. You should be happy for that dog, and you let that dog know. You know, this one of our precepts in this whole methodology, and you guys don't have to be part of this methodology. I want you to learn regardless. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're trying to get another aspect of education, because that's my intent and purpose, period. That's what I live for these days. So your influence, how the dog influences you. The dog's behavior, don't let it affect your state of mind. Don't let it affect your physical presence, your tension, your anything else. You're going to be happy or you're going to be neutral. You're going to be calm and composed. When it's appropriate then, and you need to address something, then it's a contrast instead of the schizophrenic way that humans think, behave, our emotions, our physical movements, and all that stuff. At what point is a dog supposed to pick out that one thing that we want them to notice if we're like this constantly? Okay. When is that dog supposed to pick out that one thing that we want them to pick out? If you're like this, I'm calm, composed, I'm not dead. I got this. Let's go do this, buddy. Hey, I'm happy for you. Yeah, good boy. Okay. Hey, don't do that. Well, that's all it takes, because now the dog can read you for the first time, because you're like this otherwise. Got this. It's easy. Okay. So the more you work on yourself, the more influence you have on the environment and the dog doesn't have influence on you. So once again, one of my sayings, either you influence the dog or the dog influences you. And I don't let dogs influence me, because that upsets what I know is right, which is that calm, composed. I cannot be in leadership role if I'm upset and frenetic. I'm not anymore. And some dogs, especially the ones I used to get all the time, were because that was what I did, was I took the severe case behaviors. Those dogs constantly trying to influence you to lose your cool so they could take over. And it's not that they want to take over like a human does. They don't want to take, it's not about power. It's about survival. You have to look back at how you see survival, how the dog sees survival. And if they cannot trust you, they have to be in charge of surviving for themselves, because you're not going to help them survive. You're just part of the problem. So your composure is everything. And it has to be honest. This is where looking at yourself really is, that's the work, guys. It really is the work. So your awareness of the environment on you and the awareness of the dog's influence on the environment, those major elements are part of the being with aspect. We're together. We're partners in survival. You know, some of you guys followed the story of Bosch. I still post about him and our stuff together because we're basically 24/7 together. When he's home, he can go do anything he wants. He chooses to stay close to me all the time, most of the time. He'll go off and do things. But as a service animal, we're partners in survival. That's it, and we're equal partners. And he was about 2.5 years old when he taught me he was an equal partner to me, and I respect that. And ever since then, we've been equal partners. And I observe what he's concerned about. I am not upset by it. I'm not embarrassed by it. Sometimes I just kind of laugh. Oh, yeah, I know, buddy, but we've still got to do this. And he's looking at me like, hey, idiot, don't you get it? I'm going, yeah, I get it, but we still have to go do this. Sorry, let's go do it. And then he goes, okay. And he trusts me. And for those of you that don't know, Bosch is rarely, if ever, on leash anywhere we go. He works better off leash. And that's his job. So, and yeah, I know I'm the weird guy out there that does everything different than everybody else. Okay. So I don't care. Works. Um, you'll hear all the others complain or whatever. So are you being pro-social? That's another one of our precepts, guys, is you pro-sociality. Understanding that whatever I do is for the benefit of all, not because I want it, not because of my ego, but because it is beneficial for all of us, whoever us is. That would be you, the dog, the people, whatever around you, etc., etc. Are you being pro-social? That should be your overriding guide for everything you do, everything you do with a dog, etc., etc. Is it pro-social? Is a correction, a disagreement, pro-social? Yeah, if what they were doing was antisocial, asocial, or purely social for themselves, being a butthead, then a disagreement is. Now, what level does it need to be? Just enough and no more. You get the attention of the dog. If you matter to the dog, if your presence of mind and the dog understands you're aware and you're in a leadership role, not because you take it, but because you are trusted in that leadership role, and all you got to do is go, hey, that's it. There's no harshness, no nothing about it. So you work on you more than you do the dog, guys. That's the thing. I guys and gals, everybody. Okay, I'm using a universal thing there, and I don't mean to be harsh lecturing you. It's just the way I teach. Sorry. So are you being aware? So the whole category of are you being pro-social, aware? Are you present of mind? Present of intent. Well, what's the difference between present of mind and present of intent? Well, present of mind is meaning Are you aware of all this stuff? Are you correct in your understanding of your placement within the environment, physically, mentally, all of these other aspects? Do you belong in that environment in that moment, or should you move yourself and dog, etc., away from that? So that's presence of intent too, then, is what is my intent in being here, in doing this thing? And intent is what's in your mind now, which is misunderstood. A lot of people use the word intention. Intention doesn't exist. My intention is to do something or be somewhere or whatever. Well, that doesn't mean it happens. That's a wish. That's a future tense. Intent is what's in your mind right now. And that's what you should be present of, is what is your intent right now? And that helps you. That's a check on yourself. It has nothing to do with your ego. Well, it does, because if you have to face yourself, sometimes that's kind of an ugly thing. Presence of influence. Okay, so what should you influence with? Your intent and composure. You don't want to be in conflict. You're trying to get cooperation through communication. So that's the other part of presence of communication. Are you aware you're communicating in the right way? Are you even aware of what you're communicating with your body, the way you move, your stance, the direction you turn? Are your feet splayed out? Are your feet fully together? Are they pausing? Are you walking? What are you walking? What's the pace? How are you walking? Every bit of it, every bit of it sends signals, just like dogs do to you. So your presence of communication of your physical aspect. Are you aware of all the physical aspects? Okay. You say, well, how can I do all this all at the same time? Practice. It's possible. You become something. Okay. A lot of people are not aware of their own uh, physical or lack of physical balance, strength, control, self-control, um, how they appear, all of those things. Um, if you're alive because you can move. That's what your body is for. Your body is every living thing has to move, other than something attached that has something move to it, either air, water, whatever else that brings it nutrients. So with animals, we have to move. And if you don't have capabilities to move, you're going to die. That's it. So how much do you want to give up? How much of balance? How much of control? How much of strength? How much of any of that stuff do you want to give up? What percentage do you want to give away? That's the way you ought to think about it. Um, you know, stuff happens. Um, each one of us had physical and medical traumas in our life. I'm part robot, I think, at this point, with titanium and all sorts of other stuff. Uh, been burned, shrapnel, shot, cut open, lots of things. But you just keep going on, don't you, Jason? Hey, buddy. Amen. Rub dirt on it and keep moving. That's it. God love you, man. Um, so what are your capabilities physically? Can you handle that 120-pound Mastiff or 180-pound Mastiff? Can you handle it? You have to have that stopgap. It's like the difference between having a Yugo or a 911 Porsche, guys. You may never need the power of that 911 but it sure is nice to have it in case you have to have the handling, the braking, and the acceleration to avoid a life-threatening accident. But you also have to have the presence of mind to be able to use it in that moment, instead of wrap yourself in, 2,000 pounds of steel and crash into stuff. So capabilities is very important. And if you, for whatever reason, if you're lacking physical capabilities of some sort, work on the weak points. That's my humble advice to you guys. Okay. You know, in not too long, I'll be 80 years old, and I'm still going to be, if I'm alive, I'm still going to be kicking, literally. Okay. Um, this is what this means of being with and being to be. Your existence. Are you present physically of your existence? In other words, how you influence what others. If you occupy a space, something else, someone else cannot occupy that space. What does that mean? Tactically, strategically. Think about that. That dog can't, another person, and certainly that dog can't occupy that space at that time. If it wants to occupy that space for whatever purpose, for survival as it sees it, to push you out of the way, to take over, to whatever else, and you have the physical awareness, presence, and capabilities to say, oh no, that existence, I'll give an example of someone honking at you for you existing. It startled them that they didn't look and they wanted to come out in front of you, and then they honk at you and flip you off when you just existed. So I don't accept that from people because I have the right to exist. They do too. They were wrong. Am I going to get upset at them? No, because I've got control. So, um, and the presence of physical existence and communications. So communications, are you aware you are always communicating? Every bit of you, you are always communicating. If you exist, you communicate. How you carry yourself, what you look like, uh, standing, sitting, moving, holding something, it doesn't matter. You're always communicating to everybody else, especially those that notice, and that's their main method of communication, which is a dog. Present of spatial awareness, your influence, the dog, placement in the environment. Those are massive things that you must look at. Okay. Okay, I'm finally almost there, guys. How about that? Um, Section 4 here. Get out of your own head. That's the hardest thing for humans to do. Be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with the dog. Be honest with others. Be honest of your emotional state and your investment in this. If you're not invested in something, meaning you have given yourself the obligation to handle this, to take care of it, then you're not going to be invested in it. So be honest with yourself. Okay. I will not talk ever about boundaries and things like that. Those are self-imposed things that humans put out to protect themselves and their egos. That's not what I'm talking about at all. The opposite, that's conflict, and we want cooperation. So we work towards cooperation, and we're the example for it. That's what you're trying to become. Okay. So becoming physical, mental, and spiritual. And by spiritual, you can look, we're just, some of you know, and I talk about it some, I've studied quantum physics for probably 40, 50 years now. And the more we learn, the more it is that we are simply, all matter is just frozen energy. That's all it is. It's just frozen energy. And so that spiritual aspect is understanding that we're all made up of the same thing. Everything in the universe is made up of the same thing. What made the universe? Well, that's our continual conundrum, because it doesn't make sense other than something, someone, whatever you want to believe, uh, created this and is part of it and is it, frankly. So, because if you put yourself above everything else in the universe, you're not going to be that thing. You're not going to be, because you see yourself in an egocentric state, and you will never be honest with yourself. That's the whole point. So get out of your own head is my humble advice to you. I'm sorry. It sounds like I'm really lecturing harshly. I'm not. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I try to teach in each and every course in some way, is to reach that dog. You have to be present of mind. You have to be present physically, understand what you're doing, understand how you communicate, and understand that other entity, and have the respect for it, that it's another living sentient being. So with that, next CHRI class, I should say, is July 23rd. Same time. So I don't have the subject matter. I've got about 40 subjects that I want to cover over the next few years already. And I guess this is number 30. Yeah, this is number 30 that we've done since the start. So we've had 30-hour and 15 to 2-hour classes over the past 2.5 years. And I thank you guys for this continuing, because without your interest and support, this wouldn't happen. And they're all recorded. They're all available. If you didn't come on till recently or halfway through or whatever else, all the others are available in recordings. Just you can contact Angela. I'm going to put it on you, Angela. Sorry. And I hope these classes have reached you in some way. I hope they've helped in some way. Literally, my purpose and my intent, my obligation, and for the rest of my life, however long that is to educate. That's it. That's my only purpose. So with that, I will bid you adieu for this evening. And thank you very much. I hope to see all you guys and a few more next month. In the meantime, I'm off to the Netherlands to teach there. So we will see. All right. Good night, guys. Thank you.